and then I'll have Dave Garlinski post this recording. So if you have somebody that wasn't able to make it or just forgot about it or didn't want to come because there was a recording, it should be on our website sometime later on today. The other thing is, because I'm a public educator, I am pretty used to Zoom. Zoom is not used to the number of times that I've actually had to use it. And so despite the fact that we're going to start this presentation, I may lose control in the capacity to actually move back into a scenario where I can see you. I just know that you should be able to see me in this. And it's a little bit difficult for me to get back into the sharing and not sharing. So at the very end of this, please feel free to hang around and ask any questions. It will only be uncomfortable for me if I lose a couple of controls. You should be able to hear this the entire time. And I also think that you should be able to unmute yourself. So if you need to do that at any point in time, please do it. If you can't unmute yourself, you might want to send me a quick chat so that I know. Okay. Let's see. I think you might be able to only chat me. That's a byproduct of full remote COVID is disable chat. All right, let's see. Okay, so let's do it. Kind of cool things. If you haven't been to Waxhaw a while, we are sort of rebranding almost. We're going to Nike for at least 2 years, and we have adopted a new badge. But that's not really part of the the major presentation. It's kind of cool. We're going to go over some program goals of the Junior Academy. We'll take a look at what assessments mean really briefly, and then the fall and spring schedules, what that actually looks like. First of all, the staff of Junior Academy, I think I've already explained this, is the director of coaching for the National Youth Academy is Nick Barnhorst. What does National Youth Academy mean? It really is governed first by the United States Soccer Federation. The United States Soccer Federation then allows North Carolina Youth Soccer Association to, as a part of their services, determine what is the best soccer education and personal and skill development for players ages 6, 7, 8, and 9 years old. So we call that U7 through U10. Nick is the director of coaching for Academy. He's been with us for a little while, played his college soccer for the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, when they were a top 10 in the nation program. And that includes an appearance. I went down to Alabama to see Nick and some of the other players that I coached in the national championship against Carolina, where they won. They lost 0-1. So I'm really excited for Nick to be a part of this program. He is a fantastic communicator and just a good all-around person. I also used to coach him when he was in high school. So even and I taught him too in the classroom. When he was 14 years old, he was one of those guys that was 14 going on 44, if that makes any sense. And I'm a lot like that. So I guess if I'm 46 going on 86, I don't know if there's any parallel there. We have the level of support within the Junior Academy program. We have never had this level of support before, and not this level of expertise. Tim Flaveman is returning as the U8 boys coach. He coached the U7 boys this year. He's been a part of our program for probably 4 or 5 years. His collegiate soccer playing, or his undergraduate prep soccer playing, was for Charlotte Soccer Club, and I was a coach at Charlotte Soccer Club when Tim Flaveman was there. He's got 2 twin boys in the program, and he's very familiar with the motivation and the type of coaching with which I'm familiar, and some of my sort of coaching idols. Artem Klitschenko is new, Megan Timchek new, both with collegiate playing experience. Megan coached at Top Hat, which is a nationally recognized club in Atlanta. Isaiah Chambers, who played at Belmont, will be with me. And you can kind of see in the U7 boys and girls, Isaiah and Megan will also be helping out. But you also see my name next to the U7 boys and girls. And I don't think you see it for the U8 boys and girls, but I am pretty sure that before the year is over, I will have probably coached every kid in U7 and U8 boys and girls, which is very exciting. Let's take a look at just what's coming ahead. and that's the assessments. On May 21st from 2 to 3, that's this Saturday, and from May 26th, well, that's a Thursday, we are going to have open format scrimmage play assessments. After a really quick warm-up, when you are a 5-year-old, when you're a 6-year-old, when you're a 7-year-old, you definitely don't want to get caught up in an elaborate or delicate or sophisticated warm-up. It's just going to be sort of almost like an open format. Hey, let's just get a couple of touches on the ball, and then let's divide up. Coaches will organize the division of scrimmages, and then we'll play. A lot of that is just based on who has registered. So if you are interested in Junior Academy and you plan to attend, one of the very first things to do is to register. That's how we populate our spreadsheets, and that's how probably we are going to take a look at organizing the scrimmage play on those EDP fields. The things that we look for in the open format scrimmage assessments, you'll see lots of people who are kind of dressed like I am with this kind of Waxhaw official looking Adidas gear, jerseys. We will have clipboards, and the things that we're looking for are just intrinsic motivation that mom or dad does not have to say or to prompt a student or player to pay attention or work any harder. They just do that on their own. They have an internal drive. They enjoy the sport. Somewhere in this PowerPoint, I think I say something like competitive, and competitive is a dangerous thing at this age, right? But they enjoy and they look passionate about just playing. So that's part of the maturity. Obviously, coachability, and which is very, very difficult. We don't have a whole lot of expectations of our early developmental program as far as kids being hyper attentive. If a player we find goes and is looking for a 4-leaf clover right in the middle of the match, we do not care. That's the reason why they're there, is to enjoy themselves at whatever level. When soccer becomes the real focus, we pay attention to that. That they follow the play. I usually say that if you watch well, I guess you could do this to adults. I don't really do that often, but when you watch the chin of a player play, even if the ball's at their feet, but their chin is here, it means they're looking at different things. And so one of the things that we like to see is somebody observant? Is a player observant of the things that are around them? Even when it's obvious where they should be looking, are they looking at other things? You can tell a lot about a player by just where they look and why do you think they're doing that. And I think probably the thing that I would say that most parents would say would be that you're really looking for the best player in every team, somebody who is advanced in skill. And you know, I'm sort of teasing, but it could be that you have a son or a daughter, and you overhear someone saying, "Well, right now we have a personal trainer, and they're training 6 times a week, and they're doing speed and agility and some balls, and they can juggle to 100, and they're 3 years old." That's the last bullet for us. We definitely want the very first one. And so the rest is up to us as coaches to be able to foster that type of development. But yes, do we like when a dominant player comes to play an academy? Sure, yeah, we do. Do we want someone who needs a ton of development? If the assessed players need a ton of development and they are with the like group of people, of course, yes. If what we'll try to do is we'll try to identify kind of the aggregate player, and then we'll try and collect players who are slightly above or slightly beneath them as far as progress goes, and we'll try to collect those types of players. If a player is pretty far off, even if they really, really love it, we think that there's going to be another pathway, and I'll end up explaining that to you, or someone will explain that to you in the next bullet, which is a personal phone call. We'll discuss that assessment. That's one of the things that I think is cool about junior academy assessments, is that you just get a personal phone call and we get to talk about it. You'll ask questions, and it's just, there's no time limit to it. We just kind of talk about where we think your player should go next. And yes, even, you know, I try to catch myself. Junior academy is important, I believe, but it's also just not important at the same time. If we're talking about a whole lot of detail about 5- and 6-year-olds, I smile and laugh, and I kind of say, well, that seems kind of silly. But in education, we're just pushing things forward a little bit with the Junior Academy program. When you do if you get an invitation, you have 24 hours to commit to that offer. We like when you expect a phone call from us, when you get that phone call, that you probably have one of two things in mind. You've already made the decision. And so you just say, Jeff, we accept. Jeff, we won't accept. Or you already have the prepared questions. And sometimes you don't know what those questions are until you actually see the open assessment. When you have assessments like this, you don't have the 200 people who are in the early developmental program. Those players aren't there. Obviously, you're there because you are either interested or you want to explore. You've already decided that you want to explore a different pathway. The two pathways, and I think this is just kind of an oversight on my part, but the two pathways from this point, when you have played 1 year of EDP 1 or 1 year of EDP 2, you have a couple of pathways, and I think I put this in the literature that I sent to you, but I'll go ahead and explain it. If you played EDP 1 this year, one pathway for you is to return to EDP 2 the next year. You add one player, you add a goalkeeper, and it's really just the same experience. You have one training session, and you get out there and you have fun on the weekends and play matches, and you do that for a fall, and you sign up again for the spring if you continue to enjoy it. If you are an EDP 1 and you'd like to be assessed for Junior Academy and you get an offer, Junior Academy would be the other option. So instead of going to EDP 2, you would go to Junior Academy. The same is true if you are in EDP 2 with a bit of a difference. Our early developmental program stops at EDP 2, and there are two pathways from there. One is to go to the recreational U8 league, and that's a Union County Youth Soccer League. You play, I think, 7 local clubs in the recreational U8. That's also gender specific, so there's a boys group and then a girls group. The other pathway is Junior Academy, again, our National Junior Academy. So the Junior Academy is U7 and U8, and that really aligns with an EDP and U8 rec grouping. Program goals. And some of this is if you have a son or daughter in the program, some of this is just an overall kind of Waxhaw philosophy. And so you'll see some of this being repetition. But first of all, the one important thing about this age group is, and I think I probably should add it in here in this particular PowerPoint, but we want your son or your daughter to get in the car at U7 Junior Academy, at U8 Junior Academy, at EDP 2 or U8 rec, and they've just had a great time. They go home, they may think about it before they go to bed. They cannot wait until the next opportunity to play soccer. If you have somebody like this at home, maybe this is a good avenue for you, but they just love it. And you love that they love something, okay? We want that to happen. At Junior Academy, we want to challenge them so significantly that they might say, I love it, but then they've got a furrowed brow and they say, I have some things that I have to figure out. I have a challenge. This is hard for me, but I love it. We want, in the Junior Academy system, we want all of its coaches to be familiar with all players. So if we have 40 people in Junior Academy, girls and boys, we want every coach to have a specific, detailed understanding, ongoing, every single training session, every match, week after week, for 16 weeks of the year, so that we can plan out the course of 4 years, which is 8 segments, a fall and a spring times 4. We return a player after the Waxhaw Academy experience that you cannot even recognize, that you are extremely proud of, and you can kind of almost objectively look at, well, is that possible to look at your own son or daughter objectively? But if you were to kind of sit back and take a look at your son or daughter, and then you would go to clubs that are 5 times bigger than we are, and you would say there's absolutely no difference. In fact, I think objectively, I like what Waxhaw is doing. That is our goal. we are trying to make sure that one way to do that, it's just like in a school, is that you keep ability together, is that you keep the players who are the most similar to each other or most complementary with each other. And so you'll hear me say this a little bit later on, but what happens is the academy is a fluid scenario. And so if your son or daughter is playing U7, but you feel like, or we feel like, your son or daughter is most like players who are playing in U8, we play them in U8. If we have two U7 teams and we feel like we want to, on one weekend, we want to move players around, we do that. We do that week to week. So the National Youth Academy is for player progress. It's not necessarily to put you into a situation where you're staying in the same classroom for the whole year. If there's something that in the Youth Academy that says you should be moving up or moving down or staying where you are, whatever that is, one of the reasons why we want to have such an intricate understanding and detailed understanding of every player is so that we understand on a week-to-week basis where to put that player. Okay, so that's one of the advantages. And of course, I think, I don't know, I say this whenever I talk to players, and I don't care if they're 18 years old or they are 3 years old. That I always think that soccer is something where you just sort of, you create a bond with people. There's a loyalty, you have pride in something that you do. So it's the total, full balanced growth of an individual. And then how do we do that? I don't want to go into broad detail, but especially at U7 and U8, specifically at U7, we want to hide skill development by fun activities. Things that are secretly competitive, they might actually be competitive. And we just say straight up, here's what you do to be successful and that kind of thing. Sometimes we'll say things like that, but most of the time, we just want everybody to feel good about what they're doing and to do it a little bit better and a little bit faster and a little bit more efficient. And we want them to think about that later on. Evidence of progress. Sure. This one's a quick one. We want smart, passionate, proud, independent thinkers. We want to force our club into programming problems because of its size. Our academy, our National Youth Academy right now is tracking to be bigger than it's ever been before. And the problems that we have are things like, well, do we have the facilities to make sure that we accommodate these players? Can we accommodate these players on these days specifically? So those are good problems to have. But also the larger our academy is, the more professional, the more we can pay our staff, the more we attract staff to come in. And again, we're attracting staff, we're tracking to track staff that we just haven't had before. We also like to promote good coaches from EDP too. There are EDP coaches who have a ton of experience, collegiate experience, but their demeanor is perfect for this particular age group. And we want positive feedback, strong relationships, make sure our community is proud of us. And soccer, the community is a very competitive community, and this is an open market. Down the road, we have other clubs, and those players who live in they can take a golf cart to Nesbit, or they are in the neighborhood of Western Union Elementary, our training grounds. They can decide to go somewhere else. And so what we want is, we want a strong community and we want a proud club. Philosophy. Our philosophy for Junior Academy is going to change slightly, and you probably could guess that because there are two directors of coaching. I'm one of them. And so one of the things that I will do once I get back into this particular age group, the really young youth development, is how much technical training do we need versus tactical? And that is a tricky balance, I can tell you. Right now, their technical is the absolute most important part. So you may see multiple teams training under me at the exact same time. We are going to instill a little bit of the creative player slash, in my development, it was the Corver training, where they are training skill, quote unquote, moves for situations. They're not really, I don't really care if they're actually performing these moves in matches. It's more that they have a complete and total control of the ball and balance in any situation. And 2 and 3 years down the road, they can perform those skills. And we have to kind of start that as soon as we possibly can. And the last one, the player development, this is a little bit of a difference. And some of you who are on this call right now, some of you who will be listening to this call may question some of this. And that is, how much do we want our kids to actually play? do we want to emphasize Saturday games versus the Independents versus Charlotte Soccer Academy versus South Gastonia, Greensboro? Do we want to emphasize their playing games at this age, or do we want to emphasize their training? And the answer is training. We want to emphasize their training. So I'll talk, I think I have a little statistic later on about what that actually looks like. But this year in Junior Academy, we will probably play fewer Saturday matches so that we can continue to train. All right, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Positional rotation, I think I touched on that a little bit. We want them to play every single position that there is in a 7v7. EDP is 6v6 at EDP2. That's 5v5, 4 players and a goalkeeper, and then it's just 4 players on the field for EDP1. So we're adding a few players to the competition weekends. And I think that's it. Okay, yes, okay, so one glimpse into the 2022-2023 season, and it's we'll largely base this on, well, let's just, when we get there, we'll see what the training is like, and if players are happy and players are challenged, then you'll build a little bit of trust in the program, especially if you've had no one come through academy before. But one of the things that we're going to emphasize is not necessarily a hyper focus on what's happening right there in that second, but what's going to happen, what is this player going to look like when they move away from academy into U11? So a lot of that has to do with technical pool training. And that means that we have a lot of times, like even in EDP, but also in our academy too, we have one coach with a group of 8 or 9 players, and you just train those 8 or 9 players. We may open it up to larger pools of training so that the players understand, look, we're just doing this for a skill and development right now, and then we'll break off into some teams, because that's also important too. I think Waxhaw's always emphasized teams, and that has made it very competitive with some of the larger market or larger clubs. But I think also the technical pool training means that everybody should be able to do the exact same thing, and that makes fluid rostering easy. If you've all gone over this specific technical skill, it doesn't matter what team you play on, because you have that technical skill, or at least you're working in that direction. And what the other thing that technical pools does is it evens all of the education. All right. So if I've been doing this the longest, it doesn't make me the best at it. But for argument's sake, if I was the best coach and the most confident coach in all of in the 10 coaches who are in our National Youth Academy, and I only worked with 8 people, then what the other 132 people would work with other people. So we want to make sure that the focus is balanced across all players. And that's why one of the reasons why I want Nick Barnhorst to be working with 9s and 10s, and I want to be working with 7s and 8s. So what that actually means in the end is one of the biggest concerns for we have never had a U7 before last year. And we pulled in, I think there were 16 U7 players this year, combined, boys and girls. Our junior academy started at U8, I think 3 years ago, and those boys have moved on to the U11 age group. But U7, there aren't a whole lot of players across the Charlotte Metro who are training in the U7 format. One of the big concerns was, are the U7s going to be able to play in games against other academy teams if there are not a whole lot of U7 teams in other clubs? And so that was a big question for me too. I was told that it probably wasn't going to happen. In the end, I think we probably, our U7s, just, we combined a U7 and U8 girls team, but our U7 boys, there were 14 players. They played every single event. So if they didn't play an event, I think there was one they didn't play, and then one was, I think, a rain out late in the spring, but they played 14 out of 16 events. So the matches were plentiful. That was not a concern. My concern actually started to be, should they even be playing in these events? And I'm going back and forth with myself, but obviously it's just going to be a professional conversation among those who are paid to develop these players. I don't think that they should play in those matches every Saturday all of the time. So if you take a look at, in parentheses, there's a little bit of a reduction. This is just an estimate. But I would rather have our junior academy, especially if it's significant in size. If there are 30 to 40 people in our junior academy, I would like for them on some Saturdays to play at home with each other with designed curriculum. All right, so they go out and they play the match, but they have certain objectives that they have to complete so that they are forming good habits. All right, and one justification for that is sort of an analogy. It is if you're a boxer and you've spent 18 years preparing for all of these scenarios and you get into a fight and someone punches you in the face one time, you forget those 18 months. You have no idea what's happened and you don't know what to do anymore. And what I don't want is I don't want for our U7s to go into a Saturday and they have to play because another team doesn't have U7s. They play a U9 team. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with, we're not supposed to record results, but you get the feeling of something's happening. The ball keeps going in the other team's net or something like that. I think that's great for kids. Is it great for kids week after week? I'm going to say yes, it's good week after week, because 2 years down the road, you will look back at that U7 experience and say, I'm super happy that we did that. Do you remember that? That really has taught us something. Still, in those matches, we want our kids to be able to exercise the technical and tactical lessons that we have provided for them with a certain degree of success. And if a team has a good jab, sometimes they don't allow you to do that. Okay, and then you're just kind of experiencing the social aspect of it. So we want it to be soccer and social as well. Let me see where I'm on time. Oh shoot, I better hurry up. Okay, so 30 minutes in. I thought this was going to be 30 minutes. I think we're close to the end. I'm going to give you a glimpse as to what the fall and spring schedules look like. It is a 10-month spring. It's a 10-month commitment. You either are in a mandatory team camp, which is a 4-day, about an hour and 15-minute training every day for the preseason camp. That's either the end of July or 1st of August, but I can tell you for junior academy and academy, it's always been the 1st of August. I don't see that changing. I put that in there because anything can happen, but it probably is going to be the 1st of August. The competitive play, you start traveling or hosting in mid-August. In the fall, there are usually 8 events. It always ends in a showcase. When I say always, there are also exceptions to that too. The last 3 years with COVID, and then this year with the post-COVID, the showcases have been in different dates, and then they've also been canceled at times. And so we haven't ended with an end of season competitive event every single, like the fall and the spring. It's been a little bit unusual. The spring starts probably, that says mid-January, but really, to be honest, it's about late January to early February, first week in February. It goes through mid-May up until the tryouts. Our scheduling for the fall season is finished in mid-July, and so as soon as that scheduling is finished, you get the entire schedule for the whole year. We only play on Saturdays. The Saturdays, the matches usually start at 9 a.m. and they usually conclude at 1 p.m. unless you're playing at a smaller venue like ours. And so sometimes you may start at 9 a.m. and play till 4 p.m. Typically, though, you play one 50-minute match on a Saturday. Sometimes you play 2 50-minute matches on a Saturday. Training, an hour and a quarter per week. All right, so it's an hour and 15 minutes. Let's see. I skipped over the showcase, but I did talk about those. Let's see. The attendance is required for those. There's going to be one optional technical training, and that's going to be one night a week. You don't have to go to that. And this is just what a sample schedule would look like. So academy team camp, very 1st of August. You can kind of take a look at that. This year we had a technical practice on a Friday. It won't be on a Friday this year. It'll be on either a Monday or a Wednesday. That's what I think. The full schedule will come out probably 2nd week in June, I would imagine. But this is what an average of fall looks like. And of course, since this is a recording, feel free to look at this again. This is not even 2021. I just changed the dates not to freak anybody out, but this is what it looks like. If you see on the right side of the calendar, it looks like September the 7th, we played a home academy festival. When that happens, you invite 2, 3, 4 clubs to come and visit you, and you play any one of those clubs. You can kind of see that when we went on the 14th of September to WCWAA, there are, looks like four clubs present at that. So these are between 30 and 50 teams come into this one specific facility, and we go at it. It's really fun. It's awesome. And that goes through to November. And really, that is kind of it. Oh, I have some control. Okay. I am 5 minutes over time, but in my defense, I think I started 2 minutes late. So that really is it. Let me make sure if you all have any questions, you can unmute yourself to, let's see, ask, hold, unmute. Yeah, I think we're good to go. If you can think of any questions, it doesn't bother me. This is a small enough group. I didn't anticipate that. I know the number of registrants for the assessments, I think, will end up being 4 times this number. And that's okay too. But there are frequently asked questions. I didn't actually put those in, build those in. I wanted this to be general, but also informative. But I will stick around right now if you have any questions. I will be present at both of the assessments. I have been present at EDP events the last 2 weeks, but also one earlier on in the season. Please don't hesitate to come up to me and talk to me on the 21st. Please also don't hesitate to email me. I'm easy to get to. What questions do you all have that I might answer? Given that I'm going to keep recording in case those are general. I might stop it if somebody asks a question that's really, really specific to your scenario. Anybody have any questions? No way. Come on.
You were too good to explain all this info.
I remember you, by the way. I remember you. I talked to you 2 weeks ago. Am I right?
Kind of, yes.
Kind of, yes. Okay. Narav, thank you. That was very nice. Any questions? What can I hit on? I didn't say anything about tuition. It's not because this is, all of soccer is expensive. I mean, life has become expensive, right? But our academy is not even marginally cheaper than other academies. It is the cheapest academy. So when we talk about tuition, I don't talk about things like that because in a competitive market, I don't need to. It's just the least expensive. So all told. Okay. All right, I feel uneasy about this. All right, aside from in the chat putting where I live, because I need some help putting up some bistro lights that my wife is making me put up, I will end this meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you for the friendly faces that I see here that I know and have known for a little while. And for anybody who is watching the recording, please reach out to me. Look forward to the 21st and or the 26th. I would say that if on the 21st you come and you get your assessment, you don't have to come on the 26th. But if you register, these are 2 free training opportunities for your kid. So why not? Why not? It's just an assessment. That's how I would actually entertain discussing this with your son or daughter is do you want to go play soccer on Saturday afternoon? What's wrong? Okay. All right, everyone, shoot me an email, please, and check our website for any information about Junior Academy. Really, really hope to see you all. Very excited about this upcoming opportunity and can't wait to get started. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Jennifer, thanks for the wave.
Jeff. See you
Thanks,
soon.
Rices. Thanks for the wave. I appreciate it.